Hello everybody, my name is Sniping is Fun, and welcome you all back to my next The 5 list. We're sent to all of you here on YouTube, and this is going to be my 7th official in the series of the 5 video game franchises from certain video game companies that need to make a return. I've already done ones on Nintendo, the PlayStation, on Sega, Capcom, Namco, and Square Enix, and I basically mentioned in the Square Enix video that today's list is going to be on Konami. And I also mentioned that this list is going to be such a fun thing to do because Konami is such a shell of its former self lately and has pretty much a lot of franchises that just, quite frankly, disappeared almost quite exclusively thanks to not only Hideo Kojima leaving the company, but the fact that this company's damn obsession with pachinko machines is really kind of hindering the classics of Konami and the old school nature of Konami and all the nostalgic memories we have of Konami. And it's like this list is going to be out compared to the rest of them. This list is going to be the most of the entries on this list are going to be the most basic, plain choices you can make because a lot of these franchises just disappeared or not being used or whatever the hell Konami is doing doing nowadays with like the Metal Gear Survive thing and Hideo Kojima gone and pachinko machines as I mentioned and yada. Konami is such a shell of its former self. It is quite sad given how iconic of a game company it used to be, and then now you look at it nowadays and you're like, what happened? But it's like compared to like Capcom or Nintendo or Square Enix or PlayStation or whatnot, some of those lists had the most basic choices, like choices that made a lot of sense and everyone would say. But this one is going to be more so because a lot of these franchises are as such. And I know on the Capcom list I said I wasn't going to include Mega Man because it was such an obvious freaking choice. But compared to, Konami, Capcom is smart. And Capcom is a little bit better with their franchises. So I was able to pick other 5 and exclude Mega Man just for the sake of, not, because everyone else basically states it. Everyone says Mega Man Original, Mega Man X, Mega Man Legends, blah, 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 blah. I can't really do that with Konami. I can't give Konami a free pass on that and say I'm going to exclude the most basic, popular, everyone requests some choices. I can guarantee you at least 3 of the games on this list are going to be choices you all are going to expect me to say, and you all are going to say yourselves. So I'm just letting you know, compared to the past 6 lists, this one is pretty much basic as all hell. And it's choices you are going to expect. There might be a choice or 2 in there. You might not, especially if you know all the Konami franchises and have been playing their games for a long time. But if you're not, some of these franchises might be new to you because maybe you never played them before because Konami goes in lately the last couple years. So let's get this started with the 5 Konami franchises that need to make a return. And I'm going to start off with the most basic choice that everyone wants to see back, at least the top 2, and that's Castlevania. We haven't had a new Castlevania since the Lords of Shadows games, and the last one was 2014, which is now 3 years ago, and Lords of Shadows is also a spin-off, side series compared to the original timeline. The original series that started back in 1986 on the NES and has had numerous amount of games. I tried to count up how many games this series has had, both the Lords of Shadows, which has 3 games, and then the original series from the original NES game in 86 till now, and combining them, it was about 35 some odd games. Castlevania is such a classic franchise. Action adventure, whipping, taking up control of a Belmont or Soma Cruz or some other character in the franchise. Some of them do differentiate and have non-Belmonts, but most of them are about the Belmont clan, Simon Belmont, Leon Belmont, Richter Belmont, various other Belmonts, about their fight against Dracula and all these different Frankenstein monsters and werewolves and mummies and Medusa heads and yada. This is such an iconic, nostalgic gaming franchise in this industry, and it surprises me that we haven't had a mainline entry in years. I think it was like the 3DS games were the last in the mainline series. And then we had the Lords of Shadow games, the one on the 3DS and the first one and the second one on like the PS3 360. And I'm not trying to dictate whether the Lords of Shadow games are good or bad. I've played the original, I haven't beaten it, and it is quite good. I will give the first Lord of Shadow credit, and the 3DS game looks pretty fun too. A lot of people crap on Lord of Shadow 2. I've never played it, so I don't have any personal experience with it. But I could agree, like, the franchise has fallen downhill the last couple years in the last couple entries. And a lot of people want that classic Metroidvania-style gameplay back, like from the RPG ones, or the classic series like the Castlevania, Castlevania 2, Castlevania 3, Super Castlevania 4 and stuff like that, the classic Castlevania-style gameplay. It's such a classic franchise, and it's a basic, everyone asks for it. And I basically mentioned this list is going to be filled with most of that because Konami is completely stupid and dumb. And this is one of their most classic franchises. And the fact we haven't seen a mainline entry since like 2009-ish, and the Lords of Shadow games in general, the game in general, since 2014, is so weird because with 35 some odd games, games came out almost every single year. There was like not that long of a gap. I don't even think there's been ever like a 3-year, 4-year gap between these things, and we haven't had a Castlevania game in a while. So Konami, I don't know if you guys know how to make a Castlevania game anymore or not. I have to find people that do, because now we have that Bloodstain, Ritual of the Night or whatever it is, the Bloodstain game coming out. And that's looking really freaking awesome. The creator of Castlevania is working on it. It looks really awesome. And you're going to get left in the dust unless you try to originate. And even if you try, you're probably going to fail. But as a fan of Castlevania, I'm not a long-time fan. I've only played it here and there over the years. I'm not like this super hardcore nostalgic fan like a lot of fans out there are that have been growing up since the NES and Super Nintendo days and the Genesis and played all these games on the PS2 and PlayStation 1 and stuff like that, Symphony of the Night, the original and whatnot. But I have played games here and there, and I love the concept of Castlevania, and I'm looking forward to Bloodstain, so try to get in there, and maybe you can be part of the competition. That's my first one. The second one is also a friggin' obvious game, and that's the Silent Hill series. Konami, you're dumb. You're really dumb. The first game came out in 1999 on the original PlayStation, and it has had 13 games since then. And outside the 2014 PT teaser, trailer, demo game that came out on the PS4, the last main games, or should I even say main games, but the last games at all of Silent Hill, actually major releases, were in 2012. There was Downpour, there was the HD collection of 2 and 3, and there was the Book of, I have this written down here, Book of something or other. Memories. Yeah, Book of Memories. I see I have like little notes here if you've ever wondered why my eyes glance over, because I have little notes written down so I kind of remember some stuff off the top of my head instead of just trying to remember off the top of my head. But the last time we've seen it, and we haven't seen a mainline numbered entry since like Silent Hill 4 like on the PS2, or some of the non-numbered ones on the PS3 and 360, which are main entries as well actually. But the last numbered one was 4. Whether it be numbered or subtitled or whatever, we haven't had a main game in the series since like 2012. It was like a prominent franchise on the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the Wii, the PS3, the 360, and all this stuff, but we haven't had one in such a long time. And it's such an iconic survival horror, psychological horror game that rivals, Clock Tower, rivals Resident Evil especially, and stuff like that. A franchise that could nowadays still compete with Resident Evil, compete with the Evil Within, compete with other survival horror games out there. And it's such a basic, plain choice that everyone was going to say, just like Castlevania. I said this list is going to be pretty much stuff that everyone's going to say. And I'm sorry about that, but it's Konami, and this is required. Silent Hill, bring it back, please. I don't know what's wrong with you. That's the second one. The third one is going to go to a fighting game franchise that is published by Konami. It wasn't directly made by Konami, but it was published by Konami and various other video game companies like Activision and whatnot. And I've talked about this in videos before. I talked about it in the Square Enix one, how Bushido Blade. I've talked about it in numerous lists before. I've also talked about Bloody Roar before. We need more fighting games. We need diverse fighting games, and I basically mentioned about Square Enix bringing back Bushido Blade so it can compete with like Tekken and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Guilty Gear and King of Fighters and Smash Brothers and all these different other fighting games out there. Why can't Bloody Roar come back? It's an original concept that people there like experimented on, turned into human beast creatures of chameleons and lions and tigers and bears and eagles, a fish person. I forgot now the roster, half these people. But it's such an interesting concept. It was like Tekken, but people turning into animals and creatures and just kicking the crap out of each other. And the first game came out in around 1997 on the PlayStation. and it has had about like 4 or 5 games since then. And the last one we saw was Bloody Roar 4 on the PS2 in 2003. In 2003, it's been 14 years since the last Bloody Roar game. Konami, jump on it and compete with the other fighters. The market's open. Fighting game fans love more fighting games. I love fighting games, and I'll play a multitude of them. You keep bringing them out, I'll buy this one, that one, this one, that one. People will too. And people are iconic of this franchise, and they remember it. And it is the original concept where it can stand out from like a Blaze Blue, or a Guilty Gear, or a Smash Brothers, or a Street Fighter, or a Mortal Kombat. And it would be diversified. It would stand out and be different from the rest of the competition. And it could bring in new fans, people that might have never played the first 2 on the PlayStation 1, and the 3rd and 4th one on the PS2, and then forgot what one it was, Primal Fury on the GameCube. Come on, Konami. You can't be this dumb. You publish this franchise. I know it's not entirely your franchise, but if any company could pick it up and probably benefit from it, I'm sure it would be you, because Activision's still doing pretty well, and all these other companies that publish it are doing pretty well. You're not so much. So find those rights, whatever you still have left. Find a development team, whether it be yourself or the old team or new people or some nostalgic fans that want to go make the game series they grew up with on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and GameCube and whatnot, and make this. You need more fighters, and this is a beloved fighting franchise. It might not be a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, but it's there as well, and people do remember it. It has name value. My 4th one, now this would be one that's it's basic choice, but maybe not everyone would ask for it. The first 2, the Silent Hill and the Castlevania, everyone would ask for it. Bloody Roar, I think a decent chunk of people would ask for it. This one, I don't know if more people would ask for this than Bloody Roar more than this. These 2 are like the side ones that I think wouldn't be the most basic asked for choices. And it goes to the Suikoden franchise. And I know they still technically do Suikoden, but it's been a while since we've actually had a game 2. Like, the first game came out in 1995 on the PlayStation. If you don't know what Suikoden is, it's pretty much an RPG series. It's Konami's RPG series, and we can have more RPGs, like we can have more fighters, and Konami's lineup doesn't really have RPGs in it much so right now. So if they want to stand in the RPG genre and stand out a bit and diversify their library a bit, and I've mentioned this with Capcom, I mentioned this with Nintendo, I mentioned this with Namco and Sega and Square and everything, genre representation is really, really freaking important, and it diversifies the number of the different games that you bring out. The Suikoden franchise is a popular RPG series. It's had about 13 games. I think by now people that remember the series are iconic for it and nostalgic for it. It is a beloved RPG. It may not be a Final Fantasy, but you have something that can at least tap into that market. The last main one was Suikoden 5, and it came out on PS2 in 2006. And that was the last main series. And then in terms of side games, there was a PSP Japan only game in 2012. Maybe you can localize more games and bring these out. I don't know, but it is a beloved RPG series, as niche as it might be compared to like a Final Fantasy, but you don't have to compete necessarily with Final Fantasy. You can compete with all the other RPGs, and there's a bunch of RPGs out there from Square, from Namco, from whatever. Have your own RPG, Konami. And my 5th and final one is going to be a main entry that everyone's going to ask for, just like Silent Hill and just like Castlevania. I'm sure everyone will, maybe not as much as those 2, but this is going to be requested certainly sure as hell more than Bloody Roar and Suikoden. And that's Zone of the Enders. I know it's a Hideo Kojima franchise, but you guys own the rights to it. You can do something still without him. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. You guys might screw it all up because he's the creator of the franchise. He has his vision. He knew what he was doing. He's gone now because of your stupidity. But you guys can act up, wise up, and try to bring yourself back up after him leaving. Konami, stop being a joke. It's basically an action-adventure game where you ride around a giant mech called Jehuti and fight other giant robots in mech suits and save the world and cool adventure, action, hack and slash, laser beam fighting, whatever type game. For those of you that have never played it, and if you haven't played it, the easiest way to play it would be the HD collection. That's the easiest way you can play it in that. That was like the last time I think we've even seen, the Zone of the Enders franchise was when they did the HD collection on the PS3 and 360. There, like I said, and there's 3 games, so it's the main 1 and 2, and there was a side game on like the Game Boy Advance spinoff, and then and this is only, I just recently heard about this when I was researching for this list, but apparently they're doing like a VR PS4 remaster where you can play the second game in VR. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is Konami, it means you still have interest in the franchise, so that means we can get a Zone of the Enders 3, please, Zone of the Enders, please, Zone of the Enders 3, please, a new game, please, finally! The last game came out, the first game came out in 2001, and the GBA game, I think, came out in 2001, 2002, as like a spin-off side game to the first one. And then the second one came out in 2003, I believe, and that game was awesome. The first one's a classic, but the second one's awesome as well. Hard as hell, to fight Anubis. And if you play the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That last boss battle in that game was a pain in the ass. But Zone of the Enders, please, Konami, please be smart. I'm praying for this, Konami. That's my list. Suikoden, Zone of the Enders, Castlevania, Bloody Roar, and Silent Hill. I know it's very basic compared to some of the lists I named before, where I was naming franchises that were, some of them were basic, some of them were requested for a lot, but then some of them are like, well, whatever. Some aren't as requested as others. And I know it's basic, but it's Konami, and I had to do it because Konami's acting really, really stupid, and a lot of people would agree with me. I want old Konami back, and it's probably never going to happen. And that's my list, though. Put in the comments what you want to think. Do you guys agree with these 5 games? Do you guys want to see these 5 games? What other Konami franchise do you want to see come back and hope that overtakes their obsession with pachinko machines? I seriously do not get what it is about pachinko machines. What's the obsession with pachinko machines? Can people please explain that to me? Because I have no damn clue about those things. And they put all the franchise on it. They put Metal Gear on and Silent Hill and Castlevania and everything on it. But you can't make a main game. You can't make video games. I know they're popular in Japan, but that's about all they're popular at. Video games are worldwide. Konami, please stop being stupid. That's my list, and I hope you guys all liked it. Please subscribe if you want to. See you all later in my next list, and there's going to be a couple more of these 5 franchise lists. I'm going to do one on Microsoft eventually, and Activision, and Ubisoft, and EA, and whatnot. Those are all coming too. I tackled a lot of the Japanese developers, but American developers, you're just as guilty. And there are Japanese developers I missed, and eventually those lists will come. But I think right now I'm going to take a small break from this sub-series and jump into other than 5 lists. I hope you guys liked it. Please subscribe if you want to, just like I said, and see you all later. Bye.